Welcome to the Played Out, Weighed Out show. We are less than a little over 20 days till it's football time in Tennessee. Definitely exciting. I've been running at things to talk about the last couple weeks. Good news, we have a special guest remotely. We have Kevin Lindecker. Thanks for joining us, Kevin. How are you doing today?
Great, Jesse. Thanks for having me, man.
Good
Hope
deal.
everything's going well.
Good deal. Thank you so much. And exciting news, we have our buddy Wyatt Davis. Wyatt, he'll be joining us next show remotely from Philadelphia. But we're going to jump right in. I've had a couple friends of mine ask me, in my opinion, if Tennessee should join the ACC. And, before I give my opinion, let's go ahead and hear what you have to say about that, Kevin. Should they or should they not, and why? Or why not?
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of people mention that. A lot of times it's tongue-in-cheek and people kidding around. And my thought on that is this. When I was a kid, if I was losing, never did I take my ball home with me and leave. I kept competing. I think Tennessee, for the last 15 years, has just made an orchestra of bad decisions that have just compiled on each other time after time. Tennessee has proven that they can win a national title in the modern era. Now, Tennessee has also proven that they don't know how to adjust to the changing landscape. So I think it's important for Tennessee moving forward that they have the right people in leadership positions. I think Danny White is that guy. I think he does have a forward-thinking mentality. But being a Tennessee fan, you've been beaten so many times, it's hard to put total trust in somebody. But if you're asking about Tennessee moving to the ACC, I don't think I could ever be in support of that. I don't want to see us run from the people we used to beat when I was in my teens. And we beat them a lot, too. Georgia and Alabama, we owned them from the mid-'90s to the early 2000s. And then we even owned Florida a little bit there for a while. So I would say no. I would not want us to go to the ACC if that was even offered to us.
Right. Well, you mentioned in the modern era, and I know 22 years ago sounds like modern era, but in the realm of football, yeah, that was a long time ago. 22 years ago was a long time ago. So you said competitive in the modern day era of football, and I have to kindly disagree with you. Like I said, I feel like we haven't really been relevant since, '04? So that's almost been 20 years ago. And so I don't know if that's I'm sorry, you got anything to counter with that?
Yeah, I would say definitely, the last 15 to 20 years,
right.
We've not been relevant. We also have underachieved a few of those years where maybe your opinion of our last 15 years might be a little bit different. I was thinking about it when we were at the top of our game and Fulmer was here. I was watching some old games of the season after we won the national championship. And honestly, even in the mid-'90s to late '90s, we won a national title, but we still underachieved. If you look at the rosters back then, especially in '99, the amount of draft picks on that team was incredible.
Right.
And the fact that we didn't win another national championship with that talent, with Peyton Manning even, is very disappointing. But you're right. The last 15 years, we've been the laughingstock of the conference. We've had losing streaks against Vanderbilt, which if you had asked me 15 years ago if we would ever have a losing streak against Vanderbilt, I would have laughed at you.
Right.
And like I told you before we started the call, I think it's just a culmination of a lot of bad decisions in the last 15 years, almost like a domino effect. And it's like we're underwater and we're trying to get to the surface, but we can't quite get there. So, I don't know, honestly, if Heupel's the guy that can get us up above the surface or not. I do like the fact that we have a chancellor now. In a chancellor, you don't need somebody who's got a sports background. What you need is somebody who gets out of the way and lets your athletic department run the way it should. So I think that's what's happening now. So now we have to see if they made the right hires in Danny White and the right hire in Josh Heupel.
Okay. So, do you have any reason why you feel like what would be good about Tennessee joining the ACC? Because the first thing I would say is, I would say instantly we would be competitive, right? I mean, that's a fair statement, wouldn't you think?
I would say that it depends on who you're talking about us being competitive with. Would we be competitive with Florida State and Miami? Sure. Virginia Tech? Sure. Would we get completely dusted off the field by Clemson? Probably. The ACC is not a very good conference right now. So, yeah, I'm sure Tennessee would be in consideration, depending on what division they got in, to possibly representing one of those sides. If they're in Clemson's side, they're going to finish second until they fix the football program. But as things stand now, yeah, they probably would be more competitive in the ACC. We would just have to weather the constant jokes from SEC fans about Tennessee running away from the SEC.
Right. We have a couple comments, Kevin. Let me jump in there. We got one from our buddy Derek Bowers. Thank you so much for watching and also sharing. Don't join the ACC. If you leave, then go to the Big Ten and be a thorn in their flesh. I'm assuming that you're talking about the SEC. And then we got Douglas Reed. Vandy is a better choice for the ACC. I definitely don't disagree. Let me see here. Derek Bowers again. However, I'm not an advocate of leaving the SEC at all. Well, thank you so much for your comments. Oh, I'm sorry, we got one more. Vandy has not had the coaching carousel that Tennessee has had. I totally disagree. Agree with you, Douglas Reed. Thank you. Let me see. Let me go ahead and we had a comment via text message from my buddy Ian, and he suggests that we should go to the ACC, and here's why. Let me see here. Let me read this. If I was the ACC, I would, one, reach out to ESPN to see if I could get a deal for basketball like the SEC has for football. Two, reach out to CBS to see about a football deal since they no longer have one. Since they know how long the SEC stumbled all over that. And three, reach out to Notre Dame, Tennessee, Kentucky, and maybe even Vanderbilt about joining. And here's why. He says, I would do all of those things parallel with each other. If you actually did something like all three, you would probably be able to pay similar to the SEC per school. You'd have the second best football conference with the growth potential of being possibly better than the SEC. And you have by far the best basketball conference ever. And you'd probably be the best academic profile of any conference. So, and then he also said you'd also instantly compete for championships. So, I don't know. I kind of like that, Kevin. I shouldn't say I kind of like it. I'm with Derek Bowers. I'm definitely not. We're not going to leave. Let's just say that. We're just talking here, just for kicks and giggles. And like what you say for the. Well, go ahead, Kevin. What were you saying?
I said sure.
Yeah, we're just. But I mean, my thing is I know. What was it like? We talked about it earlier. 10 or 15 years ago, we did up the ante as far as the academics at UT. So we're trying to get more academic, and I guess in the world, we can't have it all. We can't compete for championships and try to have an Ivy League, not an Ivy League profile, but an ACC profile as far as academically. So I know we need to do something. We need to start winning football games. And I'm with you, Kevin. I don't know if that guy, the current coach, I should say, can't think of his name, Josh
Heupel.
Thank you.
The hype man.
Thank you. He'll bring some excitement, I guess, like all brand new Tennessee coaches do. But I think he's going to win a couple games. I think he's going to win maybe a couple he shouldn't win. I don't think that I feel like the last couple coaches we had didn't really do a good job with that. Just win some games we ain't supposed to win and stay in ball games. And hopefully with the offense that he brings, we're going to be able to stay in ball games at some point. So that being said, we got any other more comments? I'm not looking. But anything else you want to say about that, Kevin?
Yeah, I was just thinking as much as we've been bad the last 15 years, with a couple of blips here and there where we were somewhat relevant but not totally relevant, somehow through all of that, we've still managed to have top 20 recruiting classes, which I find is unbelievable, to be honest with you. I mean, to go 3-7 last year, and we've had bad seasons like that recently in the past, and to still to get kids to want to come there, that speaks to the brand, the brand power that Tennessee has in the environment and the way kids are drawn to it. We've just got to have the right people in place. We've not had the right person in place since Fulmer was head coach, and he slacked off at the end because he was too loyal to his assistants. But Tennessee has proven they can have the players. It's all about finding the right coach, and the right coach has to be the right fit. And that's really where I stand on it.
Okay. All right. Well, I feel like we addressed that as much as I don't have anything else to say about that. The other topic we're going to talk about, just some fluff. Man, we have been getting dominated by the Alabama Crimson Tide the last 14 years. When you put that in perspective, I have a couple nephews, and they were 2 years old the last time Tennessee has beat Alabama. And I mean, that's disgusting. They're about to start driving. That's crazy. I just find that being said, so they call it a rivalry. I don't call it a rivalry because we have been getting drugged by them for the last decade and a half. Texas, everybody knows Texas is coming to the SEC. I feel like, again, this won't happen. What's your thoughts on us potentially dropping Alabama every year, that butt whipping, and potentially putting Texas on the slate every year? I feel like that's a pretty good rivalry because you have, to my knowledge, UT is owned by Texas on the west side of the Mississippi River. UT on the east side of it is owned by Tennessee, obviously. I feel like our orange is better than their ugly born orange. I mean, geographically, I know it wouldn't work because you have Austin, Texas, which is over 1,000 miles from Knoxville. But, hey, it's a new era in football. We know that because of all the things that are changing. What's your thoughts on that, Kevin?
I don't care if we keep Alabama as a yearly rival anymore. To your point, we are to Alabama what Vanderbilt was to Tennessee in the 90s, and that is no chance of winning. It's rarely going to be close. If it's close, it's because Bama played terrible, and that's just the truth of it. And we're not the only team that's not been competitive with Alabama, because Saban's probably the greatest coach there's ever been, as much as it pains me to say that. I did like what I saw about a week ago. Somebody put out some pods, and I think the pod we got stuck in that scenario was South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee. But another one I saw was Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida. I like that idea. I like the pod setup because you're going to play those three teams every year, and you already play those three teams every year. Your other SEC games would rotate among all the remaining SEC teams. I think that would be the best setup for Tennessee. You would still occasionally play Alabama, and that's fine. But as of right now, I don't think it's in Tennessee's best interest to play them every year, because no recruit's going to turn into ESPN and want to watch us lose by 40 points to Alabama right now.
Right.
That's the truth of it.
Right. I totally agree. Because, I mean, the one thing that NFL fans can legitimately argue, is it parity or parity?
Parity.
Thank you. It's far more in the NFL. You have a terrible team. They can beat the best team in the league. College football, even in the best leagues, it's hard to find a good game on Sunday that goes well into the fourth quarter. Most of the time, they're over by if even it's a decent game in college football now, in my days, it's usually over early early third quarter. You typically know, like, okay, who's going to win this game. So back to the pods, I'm glad you brought that up. I kind of like the idea more so of divisions, but the thing that is appealing about the pods, I think you could play. Everybody argues that, and I agree, the SEC is the best football conference in college football. That being said, I do not like the current scheduling of the SEC, because it'd be 5-6 years before you play everybody on the opposite side. Right. So the pods win. I mean, if they do it like that and they up the conference schedule to 9, like most of the conferences, you could get through every SEC school team every 2 years, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, and I definitely like that aspect about it, where you can, I mean, see, because basically, just like what we're talking about, Alabama, I mean, that's not really a rivalry, but every other year we can play Texas, and that might turn into a rivalry, right? Or every other year we can play Oklahoma, and that might turn into a very good rivalry. So I do like that's one of the things that I do actually like about the pods. But I think from what I was reading, if they kept even with the divisions, you would be able to circulate, I believe, at least every 4 years, which is that's a minimum in my opinion. If you sign with the team and you actually stay with the team for 4 years, you need to have played everybody in the SEC, especially since all the SEC enthusiasts think we're the best football conference in the nation.
Yeah, I mean, think about how fun it would be to go to Austin, Texas for a game and experience that atmosphere. And I'm with you. Even if you didn't go to a pod scenario when Texas and Oklahoma join, I do think they need to do away with permanent cross-division rivals for everybody and just rotate more frequently so that you can see those teams more frequently. I think it's better for the game, to be honest with you.
Very much so. I think that's what they need to do as well. I think that's what they need to do well. There's something else I was going to ask you about. What do you think our chances are of beating Alabama this year? I think you already mentioned that, didn't you?
Well,
0?
You know, it's really hard for me right now, and I'm not wearing orange-colored glasses, but you don't want to go into a football season conceding that you're going to lose every game.
Right.
Obviously, Alabama's far more talented than us, and the continuity of having Saban there is a huge advantage. But I will say this. Nobody thought Ole Miss was going to be anything last year, and yeah, Ole Miss didn't have a great record. They led Alabama for the entire game that they played them last year, and you know how they did that? They did that by throwing deep on them. Saban's weakness the whole time he's been in Alabama has been teams that like to throw the ball downfield. And if that's the type of offense Heupel's going to bring, I think we can at least score points on them and not look like a total embarrassment like we did last year. And maybe that's no consolation, but at least it's something to build on, to be honest.
Okay. We got a comment from Douglas Reed. He's a big Alabama fan. And I guess he's answering the question. He says none. He says none. But going back to what you were saying, now, if I remember correctly, they did throw a lot of deep bombs, but where they were really gashing Alabama last year was in the running game. I feel like they had over 300 yards running the ball against their defense. They were just gassing them running the game. So, I mean, that's going to be exciting because what's that have to do with Tennessee? People are high about this Jabari Small, I believe his name. Yeah, they're very high on him. I was reading an article where I guess K. Mays was comparing him to Alvin Kamara, which we'll see. But I like what I saw. The little sample size that I saw last year, I felt like he did a really good job. I'm actually excited, but they're about the same height. I know that sounds stupid, but I like those running backs to be about 5'11", 215, 225 pounds, and he fits the mold. And that offense that Kiffin ran, and the offense that the current coaching staff runs, I think will be similar. So hopefully we can gash them Crimson Tide too, like Ole Miss Rebels did last year. Yeah,
Ole Miss had 379 passing yards, but they had 270 rushing yards.
Okay. Well, thank you. Hey, found the stats for me. Awesome. I appreciate that. I think if I was watching the game, I feel like they had a couple major fumbles or something that lost 15 yards each, so they would have been well over 300 yards. I mean,
even then, 270 yards against Alabama's defense is a lot of rushing yards.
Right. It's very impressive.
Yeah. It's a balanced attack that they used, and it worked.
Right. We got another comment. Derek Bowers, thanks again for your comments. Smalls ain't that good, LOL. I feel like he's getting, what is this? All these attaboys, doggone it. On our sorry defense. I got you. On our sorry defense. I don't know, man. The sample size that I saw, Derek, last year, I feel like he's going to be good, man. I feel like he's going to be. When's the last time we had over 1,000-yard rusher? Was it 2 years ago?
Was it Hurd?
Was it her? Yes, thank you. I knew that. It was her. So we were talking about what, 5 years ago?
It's
Five,
been a
6.
while.
Yeah, I think he's gonna get over 1,000 yards, Derek. So I have to disagree with you, even though I butchered reading your text. I'm sorry. Uh, let's see here, and then we got Derek Bowers. Hypo ain't Kiffin. Okay, thank you. I totally agree, totally agree. But I think that they're going to do something. I mean, I remember looking at the Central Florida's running game. It was pretty impressive. Everybody thinks that he just throws the ball around, but he can run the ball. His offense wants to run the ball. So me being a guy who's old-fashioned in that regard, I think you win a lot of games by running the ball, and I think they're going to do that. I think they're going to run the ball. Let's see here. Kevin, got anything else to add?
I'm not sure. I agree with the Heupel's not Kiffin. Kiffin's not proven he can win anything yet as a head coach, and until he does that, then I can't anoint him anything other than a good offensive mind. Now, I wish I had the stats in front of me because the turnaround, and this is in the SEC, so you can't say this is Central Florida. When he was the offensive coordinator calling plays at Missouri, the step that Drew Lock took between before he got there and then after Heupel got there was the stats were incredible. Mm-hmm. So he will score points at Tennessee and they will move the football. The question will be and will continue to be, how will the defense hold up?
Right. That's a good question. A couple more comments. Again, the Alabama fan. Thanks so much for watching there, buddy. They played Bama early. Excuse? Is that what I'm hearing? I mean, because at that point, if they played Alabama early, wouldn't Alabama's defense be fresher to stop them? Tennessee plays later in season, which hurts Tennessee. I don't know. It all depends on who gets hurt and who doesn't. I mean, I think you have more tape. You can, like my friend Mario says, you can find Waldo, because every team has a Waldo on defense and offense, and go attack that guy. That's one thing that I was unimpressed with the OC we had last year. Man, his play calling was terrible, man. It was terrible in my opinion. I just could not stand it. He didn't know how to attack, even though I've never called a play in my life. I do know that he did not know how to attack the weaknesses and get the defense in situations and in formations that they didn't like to be in. So hopefully the new coaching staff that we have is going to do that. So we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be interesting.
On that note, Jesse.
Yes.
I think Chaney checked out last year. I really do, because from everything I've read and seen, Pruitt was meddling in everything as a head coach, and you can't do that. You have to let your coordinators run their shop. Yes, as a coach, you're the CEO and you oversee everything, but that doesn't mean that you override the offensive coordinator and call plays in the middle of the game. And honestly, knowing Chaney's personality, I could totally see a situation where he just said, forget it.
That's true.
I'm not allowed to run my offense, so I'm just going to run whatever I think you want me to run.
So do you think he ever ran his offense, though? Because I was unimpressed with his offense at any point.
No, I don't think I think the last time I saw Chaney run his offense is when he was here at Tennessee the first time.
Okay.
When we put up all those points with Tyler Bray.
Right, years ago. Okay. I'm trying to think of, I feel like the football might have just passed him by. I mean, it's funny what a decade has done with the spread intervention and all these things that come along with that. I feel like it's just a different way to attack a defense now. And I feel like that was a decade earlier, right, when we had Bray and all the boys. And so I just felt like he lost his edge. I think football has passed him. He's better fit. I know he's with these Saints now. I feel like he's better fit with them. Derek Bauer. We got another comment from Derek's. Man, thank you so much. It says, my point is Kiffins have found ways with sorry teams to stay competitive with Saban. Look at the 09. We are a Daniel Lincoln kick from beating the champs. I totally agree. Can you do more with less? I do agree with that. That's yet to be seen. But to Kevin's point, the Missouri Tigers, it's not like they had just studs all over the place. They had a couple sprinkled in there, but they did a lot with less. Kiffin has learned how to do more with less, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But we'll see. We're going to see. I like your point, though, Derek. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Kevin.
Derek made a good point there because he has he has proven that he can get the most out of the guys that he has.
Very much so.
I'll say this though about that Tennessee team. You had Eric Berry and Dan Williams on that team, so it's not like he was completely devoid of talent. I think Montario Hardesty was on that team
He was.
as well. So there were some really good players, but he also had one of the greatest coaching staffs that have ever been in Knoxville. If you consider Monty Kiffin, James Craig, I think, was an NFL offensive line coach. And he had a host of other coaches that were really, really good. Probably the best set of assistant coaches we've ever had up there.
Okay. All right. That's a good point. Very good point. I'm glad you didn't say Ed Orgeron, because I think he was their D-line coach, because I am unimpressed with that guy. I mean, I know he's done it. He took LSU to another – I mean, they won that championship, and they did a very good job doing it. It was very impressive, a historical year. But from what my eyes tell me, he's sloppy, man. I know I can't really talk the way I look, but he's sloppy. I ain't getting paid to look good. He's getting paid to coach. And I just think he's a sloppy coach. We'll see how he does, too, at LSU. But that's a good point, though. I like what you're saying there. I didn't really pay attention to the assistant coaches back then. I don't really now. Yeah, I'm lying. I do. I feel like they're doing it. Besides the Tim Banks, speaking of that, Tim Banks, I mean, he's a first-year OC. I'm DC. I mean, you think he's going to get shredded? Kevin?
I think if he gets shredded, I don't think it's fair to honestly evaluate him based on points or yards this year, because I don't think he has a lot of talent over there. I will say this. If their defense ends up average this year, even if it's just average or maybe even just a little bit below average, I would consider that an incredible coaching job.
Right. Absolutely. I think that it's going to be, man, just like, if anybody's watched this show, man, just teach the players to keep everything in front of them. Don't give up home run plays. Please don't. Just keep everything in front of them. That's what I'd like to see from the DC. And we'll I mean, lean on. They've hired an offensive-minded coaching staff, a offensive-minded head coach. So really, man, make them go out there and win the ball games for sure. Go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
No, I agree.
Yeah, and so that being said, so I mean, we kind of went off topic with, but so you are just to reiterate, would be a fan of us playing Texas more often than not, right?
Oh yeah, I would love to play Texas. I mean, we're the reason Texas is even a state in the United States right now. So
you have to educate me on that, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, we helped fight off the Mexicans to keep them. To allow us to have Texas as a part of the United States hundreds of years ago, and they're lucky we did that for them.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for the history lesson. I'm trying to think of what are you laughing at, Brad?
That's the Volunteers. That's where the name came.
The Volunteers. Well, hey, I didn't know it was at the Alamo. Was that they was connected right there? Yeah, news to me, man. I'm sorry, I didn't do good in history class. Clearly. Go ahead, Kevin. What'd you say?
Yeah, he's exactly right. The Volunteers went down there, Davy Crockett, and held the Mexicans off at the Alamo, and next thing you know, Texas is a state in the United States, and they have us to thank for it.
Very much so. Okay. Well, like I said, I appreciate a reminder. I guess I do vaguely remember that. But, man, like I said, I would love to see. I just think it would be more of a rivalry. Just to reiterate, I just think it'd be more of a rivalry because the similarities are, again, UT, Orange, first-year coaches. Even though I think Sarkisian is going to do a great job down there, to be honest with you. I don't think he did a bad job in Washington before he got, had his personal problems that he had. So I think he's going to do a good job. I just think it'd be a fun game to watch year in and year out. But like every other year, if they do the pod thing year in and year out, that's going to be interesting because I feel like it'd be a far more competitive game than us playing Alabama every year, which is just, like I said, we get drugged. I'm sick of seeing that.
I will never, ever think or assume that a Saban assistant is going to be successful. As many times as we've been burned by them, I do like Sarkisian, and he's obviously a good offensive mind, similar to Lane Kiffin. But we'll see. I don't know if he'll kill it down there or not. I'll have to wait and see because that's a different animal down there. Those people can be tough to deal with when you're talking about the Texas administration and
the fan
base.
See if
he can handle it.
Right. Well, it sounds like UT over here, though, right? I mean,
It's
not
the
so much
same.
the amenities. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that's what I mean. There's so many levels that seem like we're equal. I feel like we ain't played them since 1963. Derek also wants to know what game is playing in the background there, Kevin.
Oh yeah, that is. As a Tennessee fan, I've become an expert in living in the past. So the game I have on now is 2016 Tennessee Florida.
And I
So,
think Derek called that. He did say,
yeah.
yep. All right. Sounds good, man. Well, Kevin, we want to thank you so much for taking out the time to spend with us here at the Play It Out, Wait Out show. Definitely when the season starts, when we're going to be more passionate, because we're going to be talking about current games, you can come back and join us. All right, go ahead. Cue the music. And
I can cue Gary Danielson if you want me to.